What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and it's Top 10 Thursday. I feel like when it comes to game consoles that have absolutely failed, people only focus on the negative aspect of it, talking about why they absolutely bombed. However, that's not the whole story. Sometimes the systems that completely flopped are actually the ones that got the most interesting games on them. So today, I want to take a special look at those. Let's really deep dive into the libraries that never get talked about on my picks of the top 10 best games on failed consoles. Number 10. Alien vs. Predator. Atari's final console, the Jaguar, was a system with a lot of potential, and yet it never quite lived up to the hype. For its time period, this was the most powerful thing you could buy, but game makers were having a lot of trouble creating stuff for it. Alien vs. Predator is a rare example of just how good graphics could be on this machine though. Marching down creepy spaceship corridors with a shotgun in your hand is thrilling, and all the creatures we face look and sound incredible. This was such a cool game for its era that really maximized the potential of this platform, giving players a shooter that was way ahead of its time. Number 9. The Elder Scrolls Travels. If you're watching this video and consider yourself a gamer at all, by now you've probably tried one of the games in this epic series. Whether it be Skyrim, Oblivion, or Morrowind, you've definitely picked one up. It's a franchise that's well known for how massive and fun they are. However, there's one game that is completely forgotten. This came out on the Nokia N-Gage, a super strange little handheld that was partially a cell phone and halfway a decent portable gaming device. Travels is really fascinating to me since it's just such a nice bite-sized chunk of the bigger RPGs we usually see, and it's easily the greatest project ever made for the N-Gage. Number 8. Doom 32X. It seems like Sega had this really dumb problem in the 90s where they couldn't resist just throwing out tons of consoles. Most of these experimental systems were really good but launched so quickly that no one had a chance to grab them. That's a shame since they really deserved a bigger window to really be enjoyed, especially for some of the great games they got. Now, I'll fully admit that we've gotten a bunch of different ports of Doom, but this one was always special because it has really sharp visuals, tight controls, and everything ran so smoothly. People talk about frame rate constantly these days, and this game is a perfect example of something that pushed those aspects of gameplay early on. When I'm hardcore craving some retro horror, blood, and action, I always go back to this. Number 7. Hyperion. Over the decades, we've seen some overpriced gaming technology, but nothing can really compare to the pioneer LaserActive. This was a system that cost almost $1,000, and for that price you weren't getting much. A big chunk of the library of titles were just interactive movies at best, and yet, among all that rather lame trash, there was Hyperion. This is a classic plane shooter, often called a shmup, but with such a unique style to it. As you can see, you're flying into a war zone with enemy ships dodging and ducking all around you. Just trying to return fire and swim through this ocean of swirling imagery is so fast and fluid. I've played through this game twice, and both occasions are almost like a dream since the design is so weirdly different. Number 6. Wario Land. Before we really get into this one, I do want to say a short warning because this gameplay can sometimes shock people. The Virtual Boy could only put out graphics in pure red, so when you tried to play the game, it looked like this. The main idea behind Nintendo's oddest console was that you'd put on these goggles and each eyepiece would show you a slightly different image and your brain would combine them to appear 3D. Wario Land is built around this in a really cool way. Essentially, levels are filled with hidden treasure, and by using jump pads, you could hop into the background or closer to the screen. This will also take you to secret portals and entire unknown zones. Growing up, I dumped hundreds of hours into this game, getting every single item. I fully believe that the Virtual Boy is worth getting just for Wario's awesome little adventure. Number 5. Road Rash. Of all the failed gadgets on this list, none is more obviously a bad idea than the 3DO. This system was supposed to be a console that any company could develop their own version of, kinda like a DVD player. Not shockingly, people weren't thrilled about this, which led to very few actual games coming out for it. However, one that I'm glad came here is Road Rash. Imagine the craziest racing game ever, with motorcycle riders literally smacking each other with chains while flying down the street at hundreds of miles an hour. The hardcore music and quick vehicles in this game made for some addictive moments and showed off how strong the system really was before it inevitably crashed and burned. While you can play Road Rash in a lot of other places, this will always be where I loved it most. Number 4. Metal Slug First Mission. This series has always been so weird and silly that I'm still surprised it never got more attention. Metal Slug started out in arcades before being finally brought to home systems. These ports are rather hit and miss, with some being solid and others being full of bugs and glitches. For the Neo Geo Pocket, they decided to create a wholly new game instead of converting an existing one. First Mission is a prequel to the rest of the franchise and focuses more on the pure fun of charging full speed into battle. By modern standards, these pixelated levels might seem simple, but they're still really impressive. This was launched in 1999, and yet it still has incredibly tight gameplay despite its old school art. It's a shame that this game has gotten so pricey because I really think that it's something that everybody should get a hold of. It's such a neat part of handheld gaming history. Number 3. Grand Theft Auto Vice City Stories. Sony's made several attempts to break into the market of on-the-go fun to compete with the Game Boy, but none of them have gone that well. When the PlayStation Portable was originally being shown off, one of the major aspects they kept talking about is how this would be able to simulate giant open worlds, which for a machine so tiny is really stunning. Vice City Stories is the ultimate display of just how freaking perfect the PSP was. This city is huge, and every little detail is stunning, even on this smaller screen. Getting to cruise around doing crimes and causing chaos in the 1980s is madness, but this game really stands out for its empire building elements. There is a way to actually buy land, build it up, and then defend it against rival gangs. You can establish your own evil company and just take over the entire world. This game will always be insanely awesome because every part of it is still the same epic Grand Theft Auto we've always loved, but now playable on one of the smallest handhelds ever. Number 2. Snatcher. The famous director Hideo Kojima has definitely earned a reputation for great games with complicated stories. You don't need to look further than Metal Gear Solid to realize that this is a dude with some wild imagination. Long before he was developing giant sneaking missions though, he worked on a tiny game that is still amazing to this day. Snatcher is essentially a point-and-click adventure set in a dark future. Our hero is a detective who's been assigned the job of tracking down a group of robots with a very dangerous set of abilities. They can kill and replace any human, perfectly mimicking how they behave. In order to catch them, he needs to walk around and ask hard questions and really kind of investigate where these people are at. If there are a bunch of these robots on the loose, it could mean that hundreds of people are going to lose their lives. This game is still so groundbreaking because it puts narrative forward and really kind of unleashes a tale that defies any sorts of expectation. Only recently have we seen games finally trying to get on board with the idea of actually telling really heavy adult stories. This is one that was literally decades ahead of that. I honestly wish that this is something that was taught in all of gaming classes because I feel like it's probably one of the most pivotal games from the early Sega era. Number 1. Super Mario Maker. At this point, I'm sure we can all admit the fact that the Wii U was a complete catastrophe. Nintendo had some really good ideas based in it, but it just didn't quite pan out. What's really sad about this though is that some of the games that landed on this very unique console were absolutely amazing. Specifically this. Honestly, I can genuinely say that this is my favorite game for the entire system, and I've still put so many hours into it because, let's face it, it has endless replayability. It's a toolkit that allows you to make your own Mario game, but more than that, you can go online and download things that other people have made, creating a sense that you can just play it an infinite amount of time. Despite the fact that it's been brought in a limited form to the 3DS, we still haven't seen it land anywhere else, which kinda drives me crazy. This is perhaps one of the most brilliant things I've seen Nintendo ever come up with, and yet it's still not on the Switch. For its incredibly good tools, amazing community of people just constantly churning out mind-bending levels, and the fact that you can still sit down and play this all day and never see the same thing twice, I am awarding this my pick as the best game for a failed console. Did your favorite game not make the list? Got an idea for a future top 10? Leave it in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I've noticed people have been saying in the comments a lot lately, show us your Darth Vader PSP, prove that you still have it. Well, here it is. Look, I still have it, I still play it all the time, and in fact, I've got like one of the world's biggest keychains. Look at the size of that keychain. This is the sword from Final Fantasy VII. Look, it's the Buster Sword. Alright, I'm gonna go play some Grand Theft Auto. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and it's time I bit my tongue. Oh, hey! I was just playing a little bit of Grand Theft Auto on my Darth Vader PSP. Are you curious what I'm going to come out with next? Well, if you click this button, you'll be subscribed to be the first to know. Also, if you click over here and here, you can see my latest review and my latest top 10. I promise, it was super good. Or it was really bad and I'm sure you can just make fun of me in the comments. Either way, it'll be a lot of fun. Thanks so much for watching.